Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
From multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
We are not going for fame, and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later, she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast.
I sincerely hope you're enjoying episode 31. That is quite a lot to digest. We've covered Afghanistan, a little bit of training, Iraq, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. Eddie Gallagher is a lot more humble than I thought. The rest of it, we're going to get into some ISIS, some NCIS, and figure out what the difference between those two are.
So I got done with Buds. I did 3 more platoons.
Whoa, you did 3 more platoons?
Yeah.
See, that's none of this in the book. This is how unprepared I am.
Yeah, I went back to Afghanistan a couple more times, and then eventually I made chief, and they were like, hey, you're doing your platoon chief. So I picked up platoon chief of Alpha Platoon at Team 7.
Yes, Team 7, right.
Yep. So they switched me over there. I knew nobody in that platoon except for one individual. I ended up bringing 2 guys from my previous platoon over just as some continuity. So I knew them. And then it was different, man. Like the vibe of that platoon. So before I had taken over, I was briefed. They were like, hey, this was the worst platoon last go. They were ranked last. And it was, what I was told, it was because of their leadership. I was like, okay. So I went in there with a, clean slate. I laid out my expectations. I was like, hey, I'm all about training. I'm all about getting better at this job. And that's what we're going to do. And so during Pro Dev, I had set up a training schedule every week. We would go do CQC and post assault procedures, patrolling. And the vibe I got right away from some of the older guys. And when I say older guys, they were on their second or third.
It's not an older guy. That's not an older guy to you.
And there was a 10-year. I was older than the oldest dude there by 10 years, I think. So There was definitely a generational gap as well. They were definitely throwing some shade about me making them go and just do the basics. They had this attitude. It was like this attitude, like, why are we doing this?
We've already done this.
And here's what I hated. I hated to hear, and I heard this from other platoon chiefs too, because they were like, "Why are you making your guys train all the time? You'll get this in ULT or workup." And I looked at them, and I was like, "ULT and workup is not a time to like learn.
No. You should. Yep.
It's a time to perform and show that you are the best platoon to go to the best place." Like,
that's exactly right too. That's exactly right too.
I was raised, and so that definitely caused some friction. But either way, there was really not like a lot of friction back then, when we started, and not enough to notice or make a stink about. I was just like, all right, we're going to keep pushing forward. ULT, we did really well. We were the best platoon.
Out of how many platoons?
9.
Okay, good shit. That's good. And you had the worst platoon. You took them to number 1 at the command. Cool.
And and I won't say that's not because of me. We all worked hard. I put that.
Yeah, but you're a part of it. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was.
That's humility right there. Going from worst to first that's a lot on the platoon chief. If you gave me platoons with no name tags and asked me why this one did this, I'd say it was the chief.
Yeah,
of course, that's because I am a chief. so if I was an officer, I would have said it was definitely the OIC.
I had a great OIC as well, which was that was a huge blessing, man. This dude, Jake Portier, he was phenomenal. Knew his role as an officer. He was like, "Hey, you're in charge of the tactics and everything else." He's like, "I'm here to support you. I'm here to get you." That's
all. I had a guy when I was on a like you were saying, you do a target, and then you get a follow-on with intel, a follow-on with intel, and we're going target. I think I was a senior chief at the time, and I'm going to my GRG or whatever, and I said, well, here, I said, I backed up. And he came in the house, and he was an 04. And I said, shit, sir, you know what? I'm sorry, you're in charge. And he said, oh, no, make no mistake. I'm responsible. You're in charge. It's like, okay, that's cool. Let's do this. That's a good officer.
That is. I mean,
but like, yeah, let the chief take the tactics, and he's got the fucking macro bullshit.
And that's few and far between that you have officers like that.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I felt super blessed to have him. And, you know, we crushed work up, and then we actually got to go exactly where we wanted. I was doing my work ahead of time and knew that Mosul was going to be the place to go.
But now this is because I mentioned Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and then I mentioned Taliban and Al-Qaeda over there. This is now ISIS, and this is the famous ISIS, the guys that got famous for doing, I mean, shit that people didn't even see, like boiling people alive and just the craziest shit. So I think you're fighting an enemy that I haven't really fought. So what's, because you mentioned now when you got there, there's places in Kurdistan with malls and they serve beers and shit. Did I read that right?
Yeah. So we flew into Erbil and then ended up getting a mansion. We turned over this mansion that was being used by SEAL Team 5, and my best friend was actually the platoon chief at the time.
Cool.
So he was like, hey man, like, you know, they had gotten some pretty good work the last month and a half of their deployment because Trump had just taken office, and he was like, hey, we're done doing this shit. Like, gave us a directive, crush ISIS at all costs, get it done. So they ended up starting doing that. They cleared the eastern half of Mosul, which is pretty rural. But then when we came in, they were like, you're about to go into the western half, which is all city. And my buddy was like, dude, you're about to have a fucking awesome deployment. He's like, it's going to be nuts.
Dude, when the chief you're turning over with says that, it's fucking on. I mean, again, though, and we'll get into this, that all depends on your attitude, because this could be scary as shit, too.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what we want. We're like, dude, give it to me. You know, like I want this job. So we hit the ground running right off the bat. I think we were there for 2 days before we started going out, and we were pretty much in a partner force, the emergency response division. And I had never done a job like this. It was a AAA, advised, assist, and accompany. So pretty much we would just go out. We were tasked with going out with the partner force and advising them on how to clear, and then we would assist if needed. Well, the problem was ISIS had a fucking just a stronghold on that whole western part of the city, and the partner force was not making any strides. Probably the first, I would say almost first month we were there.
And that's the locals, the Iraqis.
Yeah, well, it was emergency response division. Yeah, they were a huge, I mean, they were massive. And then we also had CTU and then FedPol, I believe. So there was like 3 different units operating inside Mosul.
And how big is Mosul?
Oh, dude, it's massive. It's like, and I don't want to get this wrong, but I would say it was like 3 to 4 times the size of San Diego.
Oh, shit.
Oh, it was big.
And they're hard pointed inside of it, right? That's like their headquarters, I think.
That whole city there was tunnels dug everywhere. They had sniper positions already done. They had probably, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of VBIDs staged everywhere. It was nuts. It was nuts.
And that isn't that the grand mosque where Abu Musa, not Zarqawi, but the guy that cleared the caliphate. What the hell's his name? Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Yes.
But he was the one at the mosque with the Rolex on, living like Muhammad.
Yep.
Yeah. So now, okay. And I heard you like used some of their caves and cleared them to hardpoint. Like what the hell's that like? Because there could be tripwires, pressure plates, VBID, IEDs, anything.
Yeah. So they had tunnels tunnels everywhere. So pretty much if there's a tunnel, there's an opening somewhere. So what we ended up doing was we'd find these tunnels, go in there, start smoking them out, and then we'd had ISR look into where the smoke would come out from another end and be like, all right. And then usually we'd see like, all right, they're coming out, and we'd set up somebody to mow them down as they came out. It was.
But this is, I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because this is there. I mean, there might be rules of engagement on your end, but not on their end. They're dressing like women. They armored up their Hiluxes with all kinds of weird shit with like eye holes for the driver. He's going to blow himself up and shit like that.
Yeah, and that was the most frustrating part because obviously, yeah, we have our rules of engagement, but then even our partner force, there was no rules of engagement whatsoever with the partner force or with ISIS. So we were sort of stuck in this like medieval savage battle. The stuff I saw in that deployment, I had not seen on any of my previous deployments. I mean, to give you context, like we lived in not a mud hut, but a little shitty Iraqi house for probably like the first 3 months. And right next to us, our partner force had where they brought ISIS members, like a prisoner room. And so we went to sleep every night listening to these guys get raped, tortured. I mean, it was just normal. And you're like,
yeah, you can hear them screaming.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm talking like the room next door. There was a hole in the wall where you could look in and watch if you wanted to.
And this is a culture too where raping another man is a sign of dominance.
Yeah,
and sodomizing him with objects I mean, like when they caught Gaddafi in Libya, they were sodomizing him with a bayonet. Like, what the fuck is this?
They would heat up pipes and sodomize them with them.
Jesus.
So it was like that's what we went to bed like every night listening to.
I'm gonna need an extra Ambien tonight.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I mean,
well, but then you got to figure, and you got to put yourself in the mindset. This is fucking chaos, and this is war, and like this is normal. Like I bet a normal person listening to this podcast would think like the worst thing is when you go into the shitter and there's man prints and poo on the place because they stand on it and squat. That's nothing. That
is frustrating when that happens.
Well, it's frustrating as shit. Well, could you try to explain the logistics? Like, can you give us shitters and them shitters? You can't do like I saw in Afghanistan where they made these nice new showers, and the issue was the shower waffles because they shit in the shower and just stomp it. It's like, but that's normal. But the waffle stomp, but the torture, and that's every single night. But these are now, so the partner forces, these are guys that have had family members rolled up and tortured by ISIS, probably been delivered the videos, probably in person.
Yeah, and they freaking hate, they hated ISIS. I mean, if not as much or more than we did. They were driven to like execute every one of them that they could get their hands on.
And then, which brings me to not uncommon for dead bodies everywhere because no one's picking them up.
No, and that's the other crazy thing was, there was just piles of dead bodies all over the place. So like there was times where I'd be recce in a position to go set up a sniper hide, and we'd have to crawl over piles of dead bodies to get into it because that's how they would block either entryways or
bodies.
Roads. Yeah.
And that's probably like a combination of ISIS and civilians and all that shit too.
Yeah.
And there are locals now trapped in there with ISIS, and what the fuck are they supposed to do?
And that's the sad part is like we'd go into the city every day, and there'd be just thousands of locals trying to flee. And then also what would happen is we'd go set up a position and get in a little tick with ISIS. But what they would do is they just release a group of women and children, run them towards us, and then mow them down in front of us, trying to draw us out. So we would
to help them
on a regular basis. It was pure evil. Like,
yes, it is. It's depravity.
Yeah. And it's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't been around that, like just the mindset you get into. You're like, dude, fuck these people, man. Like every one of these people needs to die. Like there's no taking these guys and being like, hey, do you know what you're doing is wrong?
You're not going to reconcile with them.
Yeah. And that was the mission set. The mission was literally clear ISIS out of there, like kill them all and retake that city.
What a lot of people don't get too, in my experience, is a lot of our leaders think, well, we'll just go have tea with them and then they'll be fine. It's like they're in this for jihad and paradise. You're not talking to and even to when talking about, I mean, you're in Iraq now fighting ISIS. You guys this is fucking barbarian shit. But when we first started going in, we didn't even realize well, all these soldiers with all this body armor, these Oakleys, all these helmets, we look like stormtroopers to them. There's no way we're the good guys. And just the different mentality. But then you get into these ISIS dudes that are fucking like they're fighting for the caliphate, which is taking over the planet. I can't imagine with that, because they're in a city and you guys are just trying to kill them. And that's like a fucking video game. But any second, like we said, is today the day.
Yeah, and there were so many close calls in that deployment where we had B-bids coming straight at us that would detonate 20 yards away. And that, because the problem was we were tasked with staying 800 yards behind the front line. That was the rule. Like, you cannot go up to the front line because this is not our fight. But the problem was every day that front line would shift because ISIS would make a push that night.
Yeah.
So what we thought was like 800 meters was actually the front line sometimes. And you're like, okay, well, this is where we're at. And then, the first month we were following the rules, 800 meters behind. But what would happen is ISIS would just fly drones over us. And as soon as we'd see the drones, the mortars would come in.
Mortars coming, yep.
Mortars coming in left and right. So what I decided to do, and I told my OIC, I was like, dude, I'm getting tired of being on the defensive. I was like, I feel like we're just going out there, sitting there, really not making an impact. I was like, we need to start going on the offensive. I was like, that's what SEALs do. So I was like, hey, what we'll do is we'll set up 800 meters where we're supposed to go. I will take an element, push up a little bit closer find a place where we have good view and we can actually engage with organic weapons. And as soon as we started doing that, I'd find a place, bring up the sniper rifles, bring up the javelins, the Gustavs, and we would just start engaging. And as soon as we started doing that, our partner force started moving. And they were like, okay.
Well, that's simple. Yeah, you made the good call. It would seem like that's the obvious thing to do instead of sitting here and being a mortar magnet. But so you do that, and then they're engaged and going through the city. Yeah,
that got them moving. So it really worked out. I had a good working relationship with the General Abbas of EOP. He was like, dude, he loved me. He was like, dude, you're like your platoon's one of the only ones that are going up there and actually engaging with us. They respected that, which they were like, okay, they wanted us with them all the time. The problem was what was being put out to us by our leadership, by NSW leadership, was, hey, this isn't your fight. Don't do that. This is not worth dying for. And I'm getting told this by officers who aren't going outside the wire, who are literally flying in for a day, being like, hey guys, don't go up there, don't risk your life. And I'm like, we're fucking literally driving outside the wire in 10 minutes, dodging IED. There's so many IEDs and VBIDs. I'm like, how can you tell these guys this is not our fight? Plus the fact that we just lost Chuck Keating, JJ Finn, I'm like, you're spitting on their graves.
It's our fight now. Yeah.
This is our fight. So that was my mentality. And I think because the leadership was putting that out, some of the guys in my platoon actually felt that way as well. They were like, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be, and I
was because if there's a little bit of fear involved, especially with the guys who haven't been shot at, they hear a senior officer say shit like that, that's going to immediately affect morale.
Yeah. It did. It puts questions in their mind, which shouldn't.
You can't have that. No.
Yeah. It was like, dude, we're here, and
how are your guys handling combat?
It was an eye opener for them, and so we just discussed how like medieval it was, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on this. Like, for a first combat deployment,
Jesus Christ,
to have that as your first combat deployment was definitely like drinking from a fire hose, and I think some of them realized like, oh shit, like we're in it, and I don't think I want to be part of this. And you know how it is. Like, they're not going to raise their hand and be like, hey, I don't want to be part of this. So instead they sat there and created toxicity at the lower levels. Like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, and trying to.
I've seen that too. Yeah. I've seen it. But I mean, and that it's hard too. I wasn't with you guys, so I'm not trying to pass judgment on anyone, but I've seen dudes, and you don't know who it's going to be. I've seen it when in close quarters bullets start flying. I've seen guys straight up freeze, like they don't know what to do. Yeah. And that's probably just a chemical reaction or something. But I think I was too stupid to have that. I kind of went with it. But I don't think people really know how they're going to respond to combat until they see it. And the way I describe combat is the noise, the speed, and the permanence. Like, just it's encompassing.
Yeah. And I think, the more experience you get with it, then you're more cool, calm, and collective during it, right? And I think that also.
Well, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't, and you should be. But I think I had a bunch of green dudes that had never been, and then when we were getting into it, I'd be like, hey, go over there, do this, do that. And their eyes were as big as saucers. Like, why the fuck are we still here? And you're like, dude, now we just need to maneuver.
Yeah. Well, we're through part of it. Did one guy give up his saw?
No, that was that's a funny story. Like, so we ended up we were on a rooftop. ISIS had pushed forward and sort of got us in an L. And so we were like, hey, we need to get off.
Oh shit! You got to get off the X, yeah.
We were getting shot at pretty good. So the medic had the saw. He had a smoke as well. So I was like, hey, give me your saw, throw the smoke. And I was like, you're gonna go down, and once the smoke goes off, and I'll be the last one off the roof. I had another new guy with me. I was like, we'll engage and cover you guys as you run down the stairwell.
Okay.
And that was the story. But that turned into like I was taking guys.
You're taking guys' guns, and what's the story with the dope on your rifle? Did they fuck with that, or did they just say they did?
They just said they redacted that real quick.
Because that is treason. That's a fucking hangable offense as far as I'm concerned. If you're trying to make sure one of your boss's guns doesn't work, you just don't like them.
Yeah, I don't believe one bit that they fucked with my rifle, and I don't. They didn't. It was in my possession.
Yeah, but I can see this building along with the constant combat, man. And you guys are there for a long time. But then the little shit, because I was reading your book, and everyone's got to read this goddamn book. I'm telling you, what I love about your book, Ed, is it reads like it's like a suspense novel. I love it because I'm happy with the ending. Like if I didn't know what happened to you yet, I'd really be shitting my pants right now. But just the little shit like the cookie butter and the Red Bull and that, like you grab a Red Bull out of the damn fridge. You're on deployment. I was surprised it was Red Bull, not a Rip It. How'd you get Red Bulls over there? But like in my understanding, especially in a room or wherever we might have be lucky enough to have a common area or a refrigerator, that's common shit. If you have stuff that you deserve, you get it and you take it, and then you leave the rest of the shit for the guys. Yeah,
exactly. That's the way I've lived in every other platoon. It's like, dude, we all share whatever. But yeah, all the petty crap that they came up with wasn't until like after deployment. And they started like, well, he was doing this and he was doing that. And really, and now in perspective, because I've talked to some guys, I actually hung out with Corey Scott, the guy. Yeah. So I hung out with him a couple weeks ago for the first time since the trial. And he was giving me his perspective, and he was like, dude, it didn't. He's like, the toxicity spread from Craig Miller, Dalton Tolbert, and Dylan DeLay. He's like, those were the three main dudes. And he's like, everything that's what it sounded like was blamed on you. He's like, dude, it could have been storming outside, and they've been like, this is Eddie's fault.
Eddie's fault. Yeah. It's easy to blame the guy that's working your ass off. The thing that cracked me up was the Skittles, because if you've done enough training, you know which MREs have what. Exactly. And I would do, okay, you're the Skittles guy. I was the jalapeno cheese guy in the beef stew. That's me. But I remember some platoons where, like, if you let people know that you don't like that you're taking them, they're going to rat fuck every MRE and take everything you like. So just let them have the fucking Skittles. It's just thing. Come on. Chill out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did they really get mad about that?
I remember it was because we had like an abundance of MREs. I mean, we probably had like 500 boxes. And I was like, before we went on ops, I'd cut open the one that had the Skittles. Which has to take it. What's the fucking big deal? Yeah, Skittles in my cargo pocket, because I'm like, I didn't really eat too much when we were out, so I would just munch on Skittles. Yeah, if you need, that's energy you're gonna get. That's because I think there's a big difference between bitching and whining. I didn't necessarily have a problem with bitching, but I had a problem with whining. Like if someone says it's fucking bullshit, that's fine. But if they go, this is bullshit, it's like, you're a fucking whiner. What's wrong with you? Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's because I don't really like Skittles. I don't know. They were whining, and that, looking back, it's like all these little red flags where they're like whining about the most pettiest shit. But I was so mission focused. I was like, dude, whatever. Like we're gonna keep pushing forward. Yeah. So you got the work ethic, and then that's toxic though. And the problem with everything from fear to panic to
it breeds. People start whining, others start whining, start seeing the bad shit, and then so we're gonna we got so much to talk about. We can't cover it all, but so the platoon is pissed. They got a whisper mafia going. The what did you call them? The mean girls.
Mean girls, yeah.
When they're texting shit, and then you roll home, and they got pissed about that. Now, that, I mean, whatever. You're going home for family issues, but then they're pissed that you.
And here's the thing: I didn't even go home. That's the crazy part. So they had 3 flights going out, and it was like within a week and a half period. So I didn't leave deployment early. I just left on the first flight, which is unnormal for the platoon chief to do. I'll say that. But because my wife had called and she's like, listen, the kids, I had a daughter in high school at the time. She wasn't doing well. My oldest son wasn't doing well. They were just like, I think they were over the fact that I was gone all the time.
All the time, even as a buzz instructor, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, listen, I'll come home on the first flight. I went and told the platoon, I was like, I'm going. And I did a turnover with the platoon chief that was coming in through, emails like, hey, here's everything. Let me know if you need anything. The master chief already signed off on me going on the first flight. But as soon as I left, that's when the 3 individuals really.
Yeah, because now they're alone.
Yeah, and that's where shit got real, like sideways.
And so just to there was already what's the incident with the ISIS teenager? Just so people are clear if they haven't read your book.
So one of the days it was we had just switched from clearing from the south, and we set up a whole new area at the north and started clearing from the north because ISIS had such a stronghold. We couldn't push anymore from the south. Like, guys were just getting whacked every day. So we're like, all right, we need to change our direction. So we started pushing from the north. We roll up, and it was we were clear through this little town right before we hit the city, and it was filled with ISIS dudes. We were told, like, hey, there's a bunch of them in there. So we rolled up at like 6, 7 in the morning. I forget, but either way, we had, I lined up the MAT Bs behind this wall. It was perfect. And we were waiting for ERD to start clearing through, but ISIS started maneuvering real early on. So we were like, all right, fuck it. So we started engaging. It was about an hour and a half of just like turkey shoot. And then we started using, dropping bombs on them. And so one of the buildings that we dropped a bomb, we fired 2 Hellfire missiles into there. One guy survived. He was pretty much on his deathbed, and
he's done.
Had been clearing through. They brought.
He hit him with a Hellfire. They call it that for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, he was jacked, and so they brought him back to us for some reason. He was on the hood of the car, and they were like, "Hey, we got this guy." And usually, they would either chop the dude's head off or torture him in front of us. So I was just like, "Hey."
They would chop their head off in front of you guys?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, it was no issue. I watched them execute women in front of us. It's
like decapitating them.
No, I watched them execute a woman that was the wife of an ISIS fighter, and then they were just like done. Like,
yeah.
So I mean, there was no like remorse or anything going on. So
no.
They brought this guy back. The firefight had ended. I mean, there was really no clearance going on at that point, and so I was like, hey. This dude's ISIS. He was like, yeah. I was like, we got him. And I was like, just medically work on this dude until he goes away.
He expires. Yeah.
And that's,
and if nothing else, you're training your guys.
Yeah. And that's it. I was like, hey, because we had a guy that wanted to be a medic. He wanted to go to 18 Delta after that platoon. I was like, get him over here. We'll get him. Let's do some procedures. It's a learning experience. This guy's already dead. I mean, he's pretty much, so, got about 10 minutes left. So we did what we could. He ended up dying, and that was pretty much the gist of it. But they turned that incident into a whole story.
That turned into a worldwide story about you murdering a guy. The dollar is getting crushed. We all saw what happened in the crypto market last year. Why would you trust your hard-earned savings in unstable governments printing their way out of debt or volatile overseas investments? Take my advice. Protect your financial future with something real. Gold and silver from my friends at Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or if you prefer, have it delivered strictly right to your front door. I've been all over the planet, many different countries, and there is only one universal currency that is always of value, and that is gold. Allegiance Gold has some of the highest ratings in the industry. 5 stars with TrustLink, AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance, and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Go to protectwiththeoperator.com and get up to $2,500 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them the operator sent you. Or give them a call at 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191. We cannot control this government or the Biden administration, but we can prepare for the consequences of their policies. Protectwiththeoperator.com. That is protectwiththeoperator.com, or give them a call, 844-790-9191. And preparation is pretty much the key to everything. And have you seen what's been happening lately? Are you getting worried about what's happening in the world? I am not necessarily worried, but I am prepared. I think everyone should stock up on emergency food before it's too late. The way things are going, the next shocking headline could spark nationwide panic, and we've seen people panic, and grocery stores will be stripped bare within hours. And even right now, the supply lines aren't what they used to be. So are you ready for that? Go to mypatriotsupply.com, and you'll not only get their popular 3-month emergency food kit, but you'll also get $200 worth of rugged survival gear that will help you get through the tough times that are ahead. You can't rely on the government to save you, and you shouldn't think they're going to. Self-reliance is the only alternative for you and your family. So go to mypatriotsupply.com and get $200 in essential survival gear with each 3-month emergency food kit you need, plus free shipping. Get 1 kit per person in your family so nobody goes hungry. Everything's in stock right now and ready to ship fast. Go to mypatriotsupply.com before the next disaster strikes. That's mypatriotsupply.com.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that my opinion matters, but first of all, fuck him. He's ISIS.
Yeah.
I would be a hell of a judge. That's my ruling. Fuck him. Okay. But so that's the story. And then let's just fast forward and you get home, and then they're pissed at you. Because what I read was, now just to get, because I've had shit said about me. It's not about me right now, but you were the _1 platoon chief now.
Yeah.
So you get, I mean, that's a peer and from top down eval of the #1 platoon chief in combat, #1, which means you're going to make senior chief, which is the next advance. And this isn't you doing it. Someone put you in for a Silver Star.
Yeah.
And both of those pissed your guys off.
Oh yeah. I mean, they were, so they
it's got nothing to do with them.
Nothing at all. They came back and they were like, they started going to the command. Craig Miller did, and he was like, we don't want Eddie Gallagher to have a Silver Star or pick up senior chief. And the command's like,
why? What? I mean,
why are you coming to this with this? And he said, because he stole Skittles, Red Bulls, and cookie butter.
Cookie butter killed me because I don't even know what that is. I'm thinking cookie dough.
Oh, it's the bomb. It's like a peanut butter.
Okay, I'm getting some after this. But so they said you stole that, and the sunglasses too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so
that he found.
Yeah. Well, all this got cleared in court as well. Like none
in court. You're in court talking about Red Bull, Skittles, and cookie butter.
It's embarrassing. So the command told them.
But again, not to interject, but to me, if I just and so Craig Miller is up for E7. He's up for chief.
Yep.
And if you get senior chief and you're happy with the job, you're going to write them better evals to get them advanced. Like, this is good for everyone. I mean, not even if they agree with it. And it's not going to affect them at all.
No.
Unless you get it, and then all of a sudden they get promoted. Now, I read, too, that he was a guy that didn't want any schools, didn't go to schools, or just didn't. I see that didn't make sense to me. I constantly in professional development, whatever, I went to every single school I ever could, because maybe one time someone will need that, and it worked. I got into a platoon with Jocko because I went to sniper school. They needed a sniper quick, like just because you want. I mean, at first the dream was the big 3. You want comms, free fall, and a sniper, and then you start getting the other ones. You get free fall, you get static and jump master, free fall, jump master, and that's kind of the way you should look at it, because I'm advancing against my peers. But this guy didn't get any.
No, he refused to go. Like, I tried to put him in for Breacher. I was like, hey man, you want to go to any?
Why the fuck did you say no to Breacher? That's like the best school we got.
Oh, I know, and that should have been like, that was a red flag, you know. And here's the other issue. At that point, they made it a 2 2 LPOs per platoon. So
That's not well. Then it's not not an LPO then.
Yeah, exactly.
LPO stands for leading petty officer.
They went away with it. We had to do it this whole platoon. We had to like have 2 LPOs. Craig was like the secondary LPO. My main LPO was shit hot. He was awesome. But the platoon chief on that deployment ended up getting shot on another platoon. So I sent him over there to take over that platoon because he was ready. He had just picked up chief. I was like, hey, you're going to go take over that. And Craig became the main LPO. And that's really
that's
where
the
stuff started going downhill.
And so he's like the leader of the Mean Girls.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane. So okay. So then you get back and then you're just kind of, because I experienced something similar where you're kind of walking around and dudes are fucking off and whispering about, you can see them looking.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Okay. And I'll talk it out. I'll fight it out. What are we doing here? I don't have a problem with anybody. Well, some guys I don't want to fight it out with because you never know nowadays. But but you can almost see it, right? Or hear it.
You know, obviously you've been around the teams long enough. You know when something's not right, and you're like, dude, okay.
You can feel the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was getting that feeling, you know, after I got back. I got sent over to Tradet to take over SAUC as the senior enlisted advisor, and I did one trip there, and I came back and I got pulled out, and they were like, hey, you're under investigation for war crimes. And I was like, okay.
That's how you find out you're back from a trip?
Yeah. And I was like, well, what do I do? I was like, I don't understand. What am I being charged with? And they're like, we can't tell you. Nobody would tell me anything. Like, we can't tell you or anything. I asked my master chief at the time, who was Jason Gardner. I went to him. I was like, do you have any advice? Like, I don't know I've never been in any situation like this. And he said, no. He's like, I'm not going to talk to you about it. And he's like, all I can say is you better own up to it. And I was like,
what they already got to him. They got to him that quick.
Yeah. I mean, it was guilty until proven innocent from the very get-go, just because somebody.
Why is that? Who got to whom? What's going on?
I think one of those guys. So what happened is those guys for months were like, oh, he stole our cookie butter. He did this. He did that. The command told them, like, go back, get out of here. Go, what'd they say? Decompress. They're like, obviously you guys had a rough deployment. Go decompress.
That's a good call right there.
Yeah. And so they came back again, and finally my TU commander was like, listen, is there something here? Like, why do you guys keep coming back? And they were like, no, there's nothing else. He's like, then go decompress. Then they came back 2 months later, and they're like, we have something. He killed an ISIS fighter.
Oh my God! It took him that long to conspire.
About 5 months after we got back from deployment is when they.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you got to bring up the word mutiny.
Yeah, and so that's when once that got thrown down the pipe, it got all the way up to Warcom. I was persona non grata. They were like,
"What?" I mean, that makes no sense at all. And all you're doing where did the NCIS guys grab you? Did they grab you first?
What did they do? They came and raided. Well, they raided my house first.
Oh Jesus, that's right. Tell me about.
So, I was at this point. I was pulled out of Tradet. I was put into an office. I was told to, hey man, like, you're gonna have to sit in this office until this all like resolves itself. I was like, okay. So I was no job, like showing up to work with nothing to do. I get a call one morning. They're like, hey, the XO of supply, who was a team guy, wants to talk to you, because that's who I was reporting to at the time.
Oh shit, you're going to supply now.
Yeah. So, you know, where they put all the stellar seals.
Yeah. Well, you're the number one platoon chief. You just made senior chief, and then you're going to supply. Like there's just something so fucked up and fishy going on here.
Yeah. I mean, the whole time I was like, I was not in a good headspace. I was like, dude, what the fuck? I couldn't understand why I was being treated
like you want to walk around a corner and all of a sudden, surprise, we've all been fucking with you.
Yeah. So I get called in. The XO's like, hey, I want to talk to you tomorrow morning. I was like, sure. Showed up 15 minutes prior, like in my uniform, ready to talk to him. He opened the door, and there were 6 NCIS agents in there. They handcuffed me and then paraded me through the whole command, handcuffed. While they were doing that, they had a SWAT, or not, I won't call it a SWAT team. They had like a raid team at my house. They waited for my wife to leave. She went to a business meeting, and my youngest
So
son.
they waited for your wife, which means there's surveillance on your house.
Oh, they were surveilling me for about 2 weeks before that, which I found out. They waited for my wife to leave. They then raided my house. My 2 boys were in there. They pulled them out at gunpoint in their underwear in the middle of the street, and then pretty much laid siege to my house. They blocked off my whole. I lived in military housing. They blocked off.
They blocked it off.
Yeah, like I was a cartel member. It was insane. They had me locked in an interrogation room for 7 hours. So, NCIS brought me to an interrogation room, and I politely told them, I was like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm not going to talk to you guys without a lawyer. And
see, that's insanely smart too, because those are the types of scumbags. As the oil's dripping off of them, you can hear them say, "Oh, you don't need a lawyer. I'm your buddy."
Oh yeah, they tried to do that, and I was like,
"Fuck them."
Hey man, I want a lawyer. So they're like, okay. They shut the door and didn't come back for 7 hours.
7 hours, and if one, so I remember something that stuck out in my head because I've got kids and I've seen these idiots and give them an M4 and they slip. I mean, it's not uncommon to have a negligent discharge. What if that happens, at a family member? Because some asshole was proving a point that he can raid your fucking house and get the check mark that I took down a fucking combat seal. This is insane.
I mean, when I got back home that day, and because I had no clue they raided my house because I didn't have my phone.
They didn't tell you anything.
My wife and kids are there. They're like, this happened today. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I asked my son directly like 5 times. I'm like, did they point the gun at your face? I was like, I need to know. And he was like, yes. I was like, show me how they did it. He showed me how they did it. I went into work the next day. I walked right into the Group 1 Master Chief's office. I was like, I want a fucking explanation of why my house was raided, why this is going on. I'm like, nobody's talking to me. I'm like, this is bullshit. All he said to me was, I can't tell you anything, but you can go talk to a chaplain. And that was it.
My mind is blown right now. Yeah. You can go talk to a chaplain.
That was when I knew. I was like, okay, I'm getting out. Like at that point, I was still I'm going to get back to work. But I was like, that's it. I'm done. This is not the teams that I joined. I was like, something's going on here. So I literally was like, all right, I'm going to get out. And I had a year left. I moved my family to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back. I was going to geo-batch until my time was up. So I moved them there, came back, checked into Intrepid Spear, which is like NICO, to, do basically, what everybody does before they get out. Go there, get checked up from head to toe.
Yeah.
And while I was at NICO,
telling you what disability you're going to get, and not if you're fucked up, but how fucked up you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so while I was there for about a week and a half. That's when they came and arrested me out of there and threw me in the brig.
Fuck.
Yeah.
You're getting treatment for everything from traumatic brain injury to PTSD to probably, I'm assuming, a broken back, and then they throw you in the brig in solitary.
On 9/11 of all days. They chose that on purpose as well.
Wow.
Everything, and here's the thing, everything they did was purposefully done to try and ignite some kind of rage in me. They wanted me to like flip out.
How didn't you flip out?
I don't know to this day. Like I'd be angry. I'd be like, dude, I want to, but I knew in my head, I'm like, dude, if I do something, I'm like, I was already a target. I was like, if I do one thing, it's going to look.
Yeah. You can't even look at the jury if you get to trial.
Yeah. Oh, I was everything. Every little movement you make at that point is it's going to get used against you.
That's a level head right there, man. I remember seeing you on TV, and my thoughts were, because I wasn't with you guys. My thoughts were either he's guilty as fuck and a stone cold killer, or he's innocent as fuck. There is no in between here. This is, and like I said, then the book reads like a suspense novel. So I don't want to ruin the book, but just, can you tell me a little bit about the brig and what's it like, and then dealing with like the government agencies who stand between, like the DMV, between you and getting a call home?
Yeah. So the brig is,
it's got to be hell.
It's ridiculous. And I think it's even worse. I won't say it's worse, but it's than civilian prison or like civilian jail, because it's run by a bunch of E5, E6s. They're all the guards in there. So you got to think they have all the power.
Oh, they love the power.
Oh yeah. So you see the abuse of power in that place, and you have no rights in that brig. So you literally are in a cell. They put me in general population. First, they threw me in solitary confinement for 3 days right off the bat. They treated me like I was Jason Bourne right when I came in there. I mean,
Like you're gonna bust out of the place.
yeah, they literally were like, and that was the reason they wouldn't let me out of the brig. They were like, we cannot let you out of here because you are a danger to society. And they used every qualification. They're like, you're a sniper, you're a breacher, you're this, you're this, you're this. We can't let you out. So I was stuck in there, got thrown in general population, and that brig I was in, which is in Miramar, it's a sexual, sexual predator brig. Like, so about 85% of the people in there are sexual predators in some form or fashion. They're either pedophiles or have been charged with some kind of, online fucking thing. It's a bunch of weirdos. So I'm stuck in there with these guys, and I was not allowed to see my lawyers. I was not allowed to go to any medical appointments. They pretty much starve you. They can control what you can.
They control what you're eating. Yeah.
Yeah. They control, the phone. Every right you have is gone. So
you can't even lay down, right? Like you got to be sitting or some shit.
You have to be sitting straight up in a chair. They have one TV in Gen Pop, and they play CNN.
CNN round the clock.
That's it.
And is that so? We were talking. That's just miserable. So then you saw Andrea, your wife, on TV. Is that how you like? Is that the first idea that you had?
Yeah, I mean,
getting big.
So she was.
But, I mean, you've talked to her before, but
yeah, telling me things on the phone. But you really can't. When you're in there, you can't comprehend like just how big things are getting. You're like, okay, well, what are we doing to, like, what's going on to get me out of here? And it wasn't. She's like, listen. She's like, this is a fight, and we're fighting. Me, her, my brother. And then it was, she was like, hey, I'm going to be on Fox tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I woke up in my cell. And so your cell door has a little window, and I could like sort of see the TV from it. And luckily the guard, it was like 5 a.m. because she was on Fox and Friends. I was like, hey, I asked him, I was like, can you switch to Fox real quick? And he was cool. He did. And I got to watch my wife on TV. But that's when I was really like, oh shit, this is.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough time, because like now this is national TV, this is worldwide TV, and I love the way she sort of gave you the hard conversation, almost the hard conversation a leader has to have, where, hey, look, the teams aren't behind you anymore, they're against you, and I'm what you got. That's a fucking, I'm getting goosebumps right now, because that's a here we fucking go, hold my hand moment. It's on. They were fighting.
And that was, and that's when I was like, she's in charge. I'm like, whatever you want me to do.
Yes, you got to give her that too, man. She fucking took that bull by the horn. She took charge. That was badass.
Yeah, she's a savage, dude. I'm blessed to have her.
Can we move a little bit to you go to they get you out because of Trump's tweet a little bit?
So Trump tweeted, let him, because of his prior service, let him out. And he wasn't, and this is a crazy part, like he wasn't saying I was guilty or not guilty. He was like, dude, let this guy out and have the rights he deserves before he goes to trial. He put out that tweet. I was let out of the brig that day thinking that I was going to go home to my family, but my command had different plans. So I get out and they were like, nope, you're going to go to a barracks room and literally have less rights than you did in the brig. And so I literally sat in a barracks room for another 2 months.
Could you I saw, because I read the actual command letter where they said something, the all reading material approved by Group 1. What's approved reading material? Like the Bible and the Blue Jackets manual, or what?
Exactly. Yeah, there was no, and that's the thing. There was no, they put out that letter like, you can't do this. And then when you ask questions like, well, what about eating? Am I allowed to go eat? And they're like, oh, well. And they were just figuring shit out as they went.
That's because you're in a spot now that no one has ever been in. No one knows what the fuck to do. No one knows how to treat you. You don't know how you're being treated. And the dumbass guards, and then but you got to figure it. And this is my mind racing here. If Andrew didn't raise a stink and get on Fox and Trump didn't tweet, you might still be in the brig.
I'd be in prison for the rest of my life. I was facing life without parole. That's it.
Oh, fucking crazy. So you get out and they eventually, but what baffled me is now you've got leadership, but they're saying they're defying their commander in chief, which is obviously the top of the food chain.
Yep. Yeah.
How did they didn't get away with it? You said that guys got fired and they should have, but I think Admiral Green's still in, isn't he?
No, I heard he just recently got retired.
Okay.
So
Whatever. Not my place. So then, but you kind of, because of the tweet, then you get big time lawyers that are going to help you now. Good, really good lawyers.
Well, that's not because of the tweet. And that's a whole other element that I'm sure you read in the book. I had a nonprofit called United American Patriots.
I did. Yep.
Were helping me, but they ended up being a corrupt nonprofit. The lawyers had no intention of really defending me at trial. They were making money off of me just being in the brig. They were using my face to collect money for their nonprofit.
Yeah.
And they ended up extorting Andrea, telling her that because she had raised some money with Navy SEALs Fund.
Yeah, the Navy SEALs Fund. That's Drago, right?
Yeah.
Rachel and Thomas Duran. I got to drop Navy SEALs Fund's awesome. That's well, because Drago's the ultimate team guy.
Yeah.
Like he was like E6, busted down to E4, busted back down to something, made it back up type. He was the dude that was in Iraq because I got in a little trouble before I went to Green Team. They made me the Master at Arms. So he would call me on the quarterdeck over just Iraq by himself. He's like, tell him I'm okay. It's like, dude, it's not how it works. See you soon.
Yeah. Dude, him and his wife are unbelievable. And
yeah.
They raised about $200,000. And so that corrupt nonprofit saw that and they were like, hey, we want that money. And it just ended up being like, and, I told them, I was like, that money's for my family if I get put away for life. And they're like, well, if we don't get that money, then we're going to leave you in prison. So
I don't want to get too much into the trial because the book gets it, and I don't want to ruin anything. No disrespect, but it's so suspenseful the whole fucking time. I'm glad I know the ending, like I said, but just can you go briefly into even the night before the verdict? You need to have the conversation with your wife that I might go back tomorrow and never come out.
Yeah. My wife is she's a strong Christian. And she was like, her level of confidence that we were going to win, she was like, no, she's like, this is not going to happen. I had to have it in my mind.
Okay.
I was like, hey, I know how this system works. I could go in there and they could just be like, yeah, guilty, you're done. And so I was like, I have to have my mindset prepared, like I'm going to prison tomorrow. So I kept that, I really kept that to myself because I didn't want to bring down the positivity, but I was like, ready to go. But yeah, that was a crazy time.
What were because we talked about the Whisper Mafias, what was the headshed? Because I saw before I left that one of the big things was Trident review boards, and they'll just threaten to take your Trident no matter what, and we'll take your Trident. I know they did that to you, but because the Free Eddie shirt got wildly popular, and weren't guys getting Trident review boards for wearing it?
Yeah. So anybody that supported me was reprimanded. The Navy SEAL Foundation was literally calling people that were posting stuff supporting me, saying, if you don't take that post down, we're going to take back money that we gave you and your family.
That sounds like the Navy SEAL Foundation.
Yeah, it was a complete, they were all just the whole community. The headshed was against me, and they were threatening anybody else that was supporting me. Like, hey, we'll come after you. So it literally was like a scare tactic on everybody. So
have you ever figured out why?
Yeah. So what I was told, and this is by an officer that was in the room with Admiral Green, was when my allegations came on his desk, the accusations, because of the bad publicity that we had been getting the past couple of years with all the drugs and this and that.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't the drugs, but I was one of them.
Oh, it's like what he did is he was like, hey, he looked at my record, and this is what this officer told me. And he was like, oh, this dude's well respected, well liked, this and this. He's like, hang him out to dry, use him.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And that decision was made like that.
Oh, that's fucking that. Yeah, no, because I was making a joke that I shouldn't have, but there was the problem with some of the guys in Iraq and some different shit with, the drugs. And you did mention that. And we had been as a community getting a lot of publicity around the world, and then some was negative. And so it blew my mind. The number one chief promoted to senior chief, like you're saying, clean, boom, fuck them. That's crazy.
Hey,
I believe it.
They lost in the end. It's like,
yeah, they did.
That's
they did.
They learned from it.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to wrap it up here if you don't mind. we are gonna just like you do, man. We just stayed positive the whole time. We're gonna get together over a beer and talk major shit though pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know what? I gotta so yeah, your book is The Man in the Arena, but what I have to show everybody is so Bump Box made us some things. They sent us these kick-ass speakers, and mine says, look at this, it says Rob O'Neill, and there's Eddie Gallagher.
That's a handsome Rob O'Neill right there.
I was like, damn, I look good and I'm highly decorated. Oh, son of a bitch.
I got yours down in my
Isn't that funny as shit?
Yeah, I got your face and my name.
Cool. So, is there anything you need me to plug right now? Because this has been awesome talking to you. I love being able to sit here and just be completely riveted. And Eddie, you've done that to me today. So it's incredible. It's tragic, but goddamn, what a story.
Yeah, we're here, man. We're pushing forward. And the one thing I'll always plug is the nonprofit, the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which we formed out of that. People can, what we do real quick is we support active duty law enforcement first responders if they're being unjustly accused for doing their job, which has obviously happened the past couple of years with law enforcement. We step in, we raise money for their legal defense, we advocate for them, and then we also provide emergency relief grants to their family as they're going through that stressful time. So yeah, if anybody listening, go check out our website, thepipehitterfoundation.org, and then contribute if you can. And then I have a podcast now, Shoot Me Straight, and we definitely want to have you on if you come down.
Oh, no doubt about it. We got to do one in person, like I said, because, we're telling some good stories here, but man, there's going to be some really good ones when no one's listening.
Yeah, for sure. We got to get you and the wife down here, man.
Of course, that'll be great. So the book is The Man in the Arena, and I'm telling you guys to pick up the hardcover because those what are those codes called?
The
URL codes.
QR codes.
QR codes. See, this is me how technical I am because we saw how long it took me to set up this Zoom. I don't even know if it recorded yet, so we're gonna find that out in about 30 seconds.
We're on the same level on that. Believe me.
Cool, brother. Hey, Eddie Gallagher, man. Tell Andrea hi. Awesome talking with you. That was crazy. We'll talk soon, brother.
Real quick, Rob. I just want to say, man, hey, I appreciate you, dude. Everything that you're doing. I appreciate the fact that you read the book. I know a lot of team guys don't read other team guys' books. That means a lot to me, man. And I just want to say I highly respect you, bro. Like your career, everything that you've done. You're somebody I look up to, man. As a team guy.
Well, I'm humbled.
Yeah.
I'm humbled. Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
awesome.
Man.